So, this happened a while back when I was in my early 20s. I was working at a little retail store in my town's mall. It was coming up to the end half of the day, and I don't know how I noticed it, but an older man, probably 50s, I'm not sure, had walked past my store about 3 or 4 times. Not consecutively, just every now and again. Now, I worked in one of those little costume jewelry stores, so it was odd for an older male to be walking past so many times. But I kinda didn't think anything of it. I don't even know how I picked up on it in the first place. It came closing time, and I'd left to catch my bus at around 6:30 PM. I remember it was transitioning into winter because it was dark out by then. I'm a very paranoid person. I still live by the stranger danger rules, so even now, when I leave work, I make sure I change into an outfit less fashionable. I don't like drawing attention to myself in any way possible, so I try and make sure I'm as covered up and as average looking as I can be. So, as I said, I was waiting for my bus home, sitting by myself at the town centre's bus terminal. And guess who walks past? The older man. At this point, I kinda felt a little uneasy, but in my head, I tried to make reason prevail, as many people take buses all the damn time. My bus showed up and I got on, and well, you can all guess who got on after me. I remember sitting in the seats facing inward, the ones for wheelchairs and prams, and he sat at the first seat above the steps. I remember staring forward and feeling his eyes burning into me. I kept trying to use my peripheral vision to see if he was looking at me, but not wanting him to know I noticed him. The whole bus ride I waited to see if he would get off before my stop, thinking it was just my over-anxious paranoid mind working overtime. Until I pressed the button for my stop. I waited until the last possible second to press it, and as I stood up, he did too. I went to walk to the front door of the bus and he exited the rear. At that moment, as soon as he stepped off, I sat back down again. I had no idea where the bus went after my stop, but honestly, I didn't care. I will never forget the look on his face as the bus drove off. I've never seen such hate and anger in someone's face than I did through that window. His face is burnt into my memory like a photograph. It still absolutely terrifies me to this day. I have no idea what would have happened to me if I'd gotten off the bus at my stop, but I'm glad my paranoia was so intense that I didn't. So, creepy older man following me home, let's not meet. I was at a mate's house spending the night when I was in middle school. As expected, we'd stay up till all hours, which didn't matter most of the time, except the bathroom was right near his parents' room. About the only time we'd get in trouble was when someone would wake them when nature called. To avoid this, we'd go out the basement door and just pee in the woods. The door stayed unlocked most of the time because we'd managed to lock ourselves out more than once. This was also compounded by the fact that we'd wander out and find something to do in the woods on a regular basis. This night, his brother was home and kept barging through the basement door and annoying us. So we decided to lock the door, just to deter him. Not that it would have really kept him out, but at least he'd have to use a key, and that took the fun out of barging in. About midnight, we heard the handle jiggling, and didn't think much of it, figuring it was his brother. After about 5 minutes of on and off handle fondling, we finally hit the door and yelled for him to stop. Quiet. No response, no more clattering of the handle. Great, we can move on, right? Well, about 10 minutes later, it started again, and the process repeated. This went on for about 2 hours, until finally, after telling him to stop, we just said screw it and ignored it. He continued for about 30 minutes after our last attempt for him to stop, and then just gave up. Well, fast forward to about 9 AM. We were just waking up and one of my mates had to go to the bathroom. If you've ever had a sleepover like that, there's bodies strewn wherever there's space, and once the first person starts walking around, it kinda stirs the nest. We all started stretching and making our way to relieve ourselves of all the soda we'd binged on the night before. As I go to walk outside, I grabbed the door handle to close it behind me and noticed it felt rough. After looking at it, I saw that the space around the keyhole was all but destroyed. There were giant scratch marks on every surface, and the metal guides were bent and skewered. I asked my friend that lived there what had happened, and he said it was the first he'd noticed it. Not really wanting to get blamed for something his brother did, we went upstairs and told his parents about the night before. After his dad went down to see what we were talking about, he went completely white and ran upstairs to call the cops. Evidently, someone had been trying to force the lock open while we were all inside. That's actually happened to me more than once on different occasions. What completely freaks me out about this time was that this person knew we were in there and that we knew someone was trying to get in. Even so, he repeatedly tried to force his way inside. God knows what sort of person that was.
I should start this off with some background. I'm a male, 19 years old, so I'm quite independent, and I'd say reasonably strong, and not scared too easily. But this event has to be the most terrifying moment of my entire life. Just writing it out turns my stomach. I live in the United Kingdom, in a small village. I'm not going to say where it is exactly, for personal reasons, but let's just say everyone knows each other around here. My girlfriend lives in the same village. I'm going to call her Jen, and I'd say I'm around her place about 99% of the time. We do spend a lot of time together. One day, Jen and I were sitting in her living room. Her house is 3 stories, and the attic is on the top floor. Her living room is on the first floor. As we were watching one of her TV shows, Gossip Girl or something like that, I started hearing banging up around the ceiling. I knew there was no one else that could have possibly been in the house, so I just shrugged it off as the wind, or maybe creaky floorboards. Had to be some kind of logical explanation. I thought that to at least stop me from freaking out. After about 10 minutes, I heard walking around, and I'm talking human footsteps. I never thought that I would be able to tell the differences between house noises and human footsteps so distinctly. But this time, I was completely sure that these noises was a person walking around upstairs. Jen looked at me in confusion. I asked calmly, "Is there anyone else here?" And she said, "Why would someone be in here?" In a cracked and on the verge of crying voice. My heart sunk to the bottom of my stomach. My palms were sweaty and I built up what was left of my courage. And I shouted, "Hey!" And the noises stopped. They just stopped. Now I was panicking. My jaw was clenched together. But I needed to check this out. For Jen. Or maybe just for my own curiosity. Now me being the fighting type, I went upstairs to check. And there was nothing there. I looked everywhere that was possible, apart from the attic, because no one has ever gone into the attic. The door has been constantly jammed shut. I mean, the handle would turn, but it just would never open. So we left it. I brushed it off, and we figured that it just must have been the wind. A couple of months later, the noises were still happening, almost every day and every night, only when we were on the bottom floor. We always checked and never found anything. We stopped checking the attic because we knew it was pointless, and you just couldn't get in. But one night, we were sick of the noises. We hadn't heard the footsteps in a while, just banging. So we said to each other, the next time we hear a noise, we're going to run up as fast as possible to see if anything's there. A couple of days passed, and nothing. We kept the knife in the bedroom, just in case. When we were just about ready to turn in and turn off the TV, it was around 4 a.m. on a Sunday night. Then we heard thud, thud, thud. I swear someone was running. So I grabbed a knife. I ran as fast as I possibly could to get to the stairs to the 3rd floor. And I heard a bang in the attic. So I quickly jumped on the bed, turned the handle, pushed the door, obviously thinking it was going to be shut. But it wasn't. It opened. So I stuck my head up, and you wouldn't believe. You had to be there to understand the fright of seeing 3 people in the attic. There were food packets everywhere, and I shouted, "Who the hell are you? What are you doing here?" There was no reply, and I exclaimed again, "I have a gun." Obviously, I didn't have a gun. I just said that to try to scare them. And all I could remember seeing was this big knife, more like a big sword. It was so massive. So I slammed the door shut and I ran outside with Jen. We locked the door and rang the police. And in all honesty, they showed up within 10 minutes, much quicker than I thought they would. They went in the house and searched. The back door was wide open when they went in. The police went upstairs and checked the attic, but all 3 of those people were gone. I was so happy that this was finished, but what they found in the attic was very disturbing. They had my girlfriend's pants and her bras, and they were covered with dried white substance. I never found out if any of them ever got caught, but I do know the police took the pants and a bra in for evidence. Nothing has happened since. It's been about a year. I'm just so happy that nothing ever happened to either of us. The scariest thing of all, though, is who knows what they were doing when we were asleep.